Officers Hale and his team ruled the streets with unchecked power, their badges shields against consequence. Raymond Carter knew their type: cops who saw black men as easy targets, who used their authority to harass, brutalize, and bury the truth beneath falsified reports and lost evidence. He had watched it happen too many times, seen neighbors pulled over for nothing, friends humiliated on the sidewalk, families torn apart by a system designed to protect its own. But Raymond wasn't just another man to be silenced. He was a former Marine trained to endure, to fight, to survive, and he wasn't going to wait for the next victim. Setting the trap was dangerous, but necessary. A hidden camera, a staged encounter, undeniable proof. He would give them the opportunity to do what they had always done, and when they did, there would be no way to spin it, no way to bury it. Raymond Carter walked slowly along the cracked sidewalk, his hands tucked into his jacket pockets. He had called this place home for nearly 15 years. It wasn't perfect, but it was still home to him. The signs were subtle at first. Police cruisers started lingering a little too long on certain blocks, slowing down as kids played outside. Then the questions began. What are you doing here? Where are you headed? Questions asked in sharp, clipped tones, as if just existing in this space was a crime. A few months ago, they'd pulled over his neighbor, an older man who ran a small cleaning business. The man's granddaughter had filmed the whole thing. It circulated online. People were outraged, but then the attention died down. Nothing changed. That was what finally got under Raymond's skin, the helpless feeling of watching his community endure the same harassment day after day with no real recourse. He first heard about Lisa Tanner from a friend who had once tipped her off about a predatory landlord. She showed up at the community center, a petite woman with sharp features and even sharper eyes. I've been hearing about what's happening around here. I think there's a bigger story. Raymond eyed her suspiciously. I'll do more than write an article, Lisa said firmly. I'll make sure people can't look away. Over the next week, Lisa kept showing up. She talked to other residents, asked questions, listened more than she spoke. You're the one who can help me make this happen. People respect you. Raymond had shaken his head the first few times. Lisa's response was always the same: what if it makes them better? By the end of their last conversation, Raymond found himself agreeing. It was her idea to go undercover. People need to see it, she'd said, not just hear it, they need to see it happen. Raymond adjusted his jacket and set off down the block. This was it, no turning back. Raymond strode toward the upscale neighborhood, each step measured and deliberate. The boarded-up windows and cracked sidewalks gave way to neatly trimmed hedges and driveways with luxury cars parked in them. He passed a family unloading groceries. The mother glanced his way, her smile faltering slightly. He knew the look well. It was that cautious, assessing gaze that hinted at suspicion. A few blocks in the neighborhood grew quieter. The only sounds were the faint hum of a lawnmower. Raymond adjusted his jacket, slightly feeling the hidden camera pressing against his chest. Afternoon, a middle-aged man said, stepping out onto his porch with a newspaper. Raymond nodded. Afternoon. The man tilted his head. You live around here? He asked. No, Raymond said, simply just walking through. The man smiled, disappeared. Enjoy your walk, he said, his tone cooler now. Further down the block, a police cruiser idled at a stop sign. Raymond's stomach tightened, but he made himself look straight ahead. When he reached the next block, he noticed a second cruiser. Two officers leaned against it. Their eyes followed him. One of them said something to the other, and both began to move toward him. Excuse me, sir, one of the officers called out. Can we have a word? Raymond stopped. Sure, he said. What can I do for you? We got a call about someone matching your description, said you were acting suspicious. Raymond raised an eyebrow. Suspicious how? Just wandering around. Not from around here, are you? I'm just taking a walk, Raymond replied evenly. We're going to need some ID, just routine. Am I being detained? Not yet, the first officer said, a smirk tugging at his lips. If I'm not being detained, I'd like to be on my way. Not so fast, we have some questions. Raymond clenched his jaw. This was the moment he'd prepared for. You don't see many guys like you around here, the taller officer said, his eyes narrowing. Big guy like you walking through stands out, don't you think? I'm just walking. Walking, you mean waddling maybe? The officers chuckled. You sure you're not casing the place? Big guy like you must be looking for an easy target, right? I'm just walking, he repeated. Well, maybe you should walk a little faster before things get complicated. Raymond didn't flinch. He knew the camera was rolling. I'm not doing anything wrong. No, you're not, he said slowly, but you sure don't look like you belong here. Looks can be deceiving, Raymond said, and I'm not moving. The tension crackled like static electricity. So you're refusing to cooperate, the shorter officer said. I never said that. I told you I'm just out for a walk. Just out for a walk, huh? Dressed like that. What's wrong with what I'm wearing? Nothing, just looks a little out of place. I already told you I'm just walking through. Well, maybe you should walk yourself back where you came from. You think these people want to see you standing around here. I have every right to be here. I'm not breaking any laws. Your attitude is what suspicious guy like you just wandering through looking at these houses. I haven't done anything wrong. You stopped me. Listen, buddy, I don't know what you think you're doing here, but I don't trust it. You don't look like you belong. It means that maybe we need to have a little chat down at the station. That sounds an awful lot like you're detaining me, and if that's the case, I'd like to know what law I've broken. You've got a smart mouth. Maybe you're not breaking any laws, but you're pissing me off. Last I checked, that's not a crime. You think you're clever? Let's see how clever you are when we bring you in. Bring me in for what I'm walking through this neighborhood. That's not a crime. It is when you're casing houses. Casing houses, that's ridiculous. We've got reports of big guy Black going door to door, trying to look for easy targets. You're lying. You never got a call. Are you calling us liars, sir? I'm calling it what it is, an excuse. Raymond's pulse quickened, but he held his ground. I've done nothing wrong. I'm not casing houses. I'm not robbing anyone, and you know that. Because from where I'm standing, it sure looks like you've been hanging around a little too long. I'm not robbing anyone, and if you're going to accuse me of that, you'd better be ready to back it up with more than just your assumptions. The officers exchanged a glance. Their postures stiffened. You don't seem to understand. You're not just going to walk away from this. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me exactly what I've done wrong. You've got a smart mouth, don't you? Maybe you're used to talking back, but out here, that's not going to fly. I'm not talking back. I'm just asking for some clarity. Clarity? You're in the wrong neighborhood, big man. I'm not going to let you intimidate me. That was when it happened. The taller officer's hand shot out, shoving Raymond hard in the chest. Raymond staggered back, but didn't fall. Hey, Raymond barked, what's your problem? My problem is you. I'm not looking for trouble. I'm just standing here. Maybe you should have thought of that before you mouthed off. I'm just asking you why you're stopping me. You put hands on me. You're lucky. That's all we did. Guys like you think you can do whatever you want. Not in this neighborhood. I don't have to explain myself. You've got no reason to be in my face. The shorter officer reached out, grabbing at his arm. Raymond yanked it back. Don't touch me, Raymond snapped. Or what? Or I'll defend myself, Raymond warned. The taller officer shoved him again, harder this time. I'm warning you, let go of me. The shorter officer pulled back for a moment, then, without another word, he swung. The punch caught Raymond off guard, glancing off his jaw, but not knocking him down. He didn't have a choice anymore. They'd started it. Raymond ducked as the taller officer swung next. He planted his feet and shoved back, using his size and strength to create space. Enough, Raymond shouted. I don't want to fight you. Yeah, well, you got one anyway. The fight moved into the street. His military training had taught him how to neutralize threats quickly, but he was holding back. He didn't want to hurt them. The taller officer threw another punch, this time connecting with Raymond's shoulder. The shorter officer tried to grab him from behind, but Raymond spun, breaking the hold. They kept coming. Every time Raymond deflected one, the other would attack. His breathing was heavy now. Stop this, Raymond bellowed, stepping back, hands raised. You don't get to decide that, fat boy. Raymond's blood ran hot, but he swallowed the insult. The taller officer rushed forward again, slamming his shoulder into Raymond's chest, knocking him backward onto the pavement. Pain exploded through Raymond's back. Before he could get up, a boot came down on his arm, pinning him. Got you now, big guy, the shorter officer sneered. You think you're tough, huh? The taller officer hissed. Raymond tried to yank his arm free, but the officer twisted his foot, grinding it into his muscle. I didn't do anything, he forced out. You didn't enough, fat boy. He punctuated the words with a hard punch to Raymond's gut. A deep pain shot through his stomach, forcing the breath from his lungs. The taller officer laughed. Not so tough now, are you? Raymond clenched his fists. If he didn't do something, they weren't going to stop. He exhaled sharply and moved, using his core strength. He twisted his body, jerking his trapped arm free. The sudden motion sent the shorter officer stumbling to the side. A solid elbow to the ribs sent the officer reeling back with a grunt. Raymond surged upward, adrenaline pumping through his veins. The shorter officer rushed him, but Raymond stepped aside, using his opponent's momentum against him. Stay down, Raymond growled. His voice was low, commanding. The taller one came at him again, swinging with full force. The punch connected, landing across Raymond's jaw. His head snapped to the side, the taste of blood filling his mouth. The shorter officer recovered, grabbing at Raymond's jacket, yanking hard. They were both on him. Now the blows came fast, fists slamming into his ribs. Another punch caught him in the stomach, then another. His legs buckled, and he dropped to one knee, gasping for air. Not so big now, huh? He had tried to hold back, tried to de-escalate, but they weren't stopping. They weren't going to stop. The baton came down on his shoulder, first a brutal strike that sent a jolt of pain down his arm. A sharp crack sounded as the baton struck the back of his knee, forcing him fully onto the ground. Raymond coughed, trying to push himself up, but the shorter officer kicked him in the ribs, rolling him onto his back. "You should have just gone home," the shorter officer muttered before bringing the baton down again, this time against Raymond's side hard and fast. Pain exploded through his ribs. His breath came in short, shallow gasps. "Stop resisting," the officer barked, his voice mocking. "I'm not." Raymond's words were cut off as the baton struck his arm again, his vision blurred at the edges, but he held on barely. Then came the weight, the combined force of both officers as they wrenched his arms behind his back, his wrists twisted unnaturally. The handcuffs dug in hard, too tight, cutting into his skin. Raymond lay there, chest heaving, pain pulsing through every inch of his body. "You should have just walked away," the taller officer leaned down. Raymond didn't respond. He kept his head turned to the side, his cheek pressed into the street, but he wasn't defeated, he wasn't broken. The whole world was about to see exactly what they had done. Raymond lay still on the pavement, his body aching from the repeated strikes. The officers led him toward the waiting squad car. Raymond leaned his head back against the seat, exhaling slowly, his body ached, his mind still racing. The ride was silent for a while. Inside, the station was cold and sterile. "Charges?" the officer at the desk asked without looking up. "Trespassing, resisting, assaulting an officer." Man's jaw tightened. "That's not true. Take it up later." They led him to a holding cell, the metal bars clanging shut behind him. Across town, Lisa's phone buzzed against her desk. "They arrested him." Lisa sat up straight. "What?" "Raymond, they've got him in holding." She gripped the phone tighter. "Tell me you got footage." "More than enough." Lisa was out the door before they finished speaking. Back in the cell, Raymond didn't know how long they planned to keep him here, but he did know one thing: Lisa had the footage, and once it got out, this wasn't going to end the way they thought it would. Lisa sat at her desk, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, her pulse hammering in her ears. The video was playing. She leaned forward, her hands gripping the edges of her desk as she watched the officers surround Raymond, their postures tense before the first push, the sneer, the shoves, then the first baton strike. She flinched when it hit. Raymond hadn't provoked them, he hadn't fought back, they had gone after him because they could. Her phone sat next to her. She reached for her phone, dialing a number with steady hands. "This better be important," her editor said, his voice groggy. "I have something big." "How big?" "Big enough to set the city on fire." Raymond sat in the holding cell. The only thing keeping him steady was the knowledge that Lisa had the footage. Lisa sat in her car, the video queued up on the screen. She didn't hesitate, she hit upload. Within minutes it was out. Across the city, phones vibrated, notifications lit up screens. The hashtag Justice for Raymond started trending within the hour. In Raymond's neighborhood, the reaction was immediate. Inside the corner store, a small crowd had gathered. "That man served this country, and look at how they treat him. This is what happens when you go looking for trouble. It proves that now the whole damn world can see it." Elsewhere, outside a local diner, two men leaned against the wall. They didn't even hesitate, they were waiting for an excuse. "This is bigger than just one arrest, this is about all of us." The church doors down the street had been left open. Reverend Harris turned to the crowd. "We cannot let this be just another story," he said. Outside, a mother sat in her parked car, her hands gripping the steering wheel. "This is why I tell you to be careful," she said finally. Inside the police station, the shift in atmosphere was palpable. Officers who had been laughing minutes ago now whispered among themselves. The station chief stormed out of his office. "How the hell did this get out so fast?" "I don't know, sir, but it's everywhere." "Get him processed now." Raymond sat up straighter when he saw the movement. The officer who had ignored him earlier now looked uneasy. "Looks like you're getting your phone call." Lisa had done her job, now it was time. Raymond sat at the metal table, a landline phone pressed against his ear. Lisa's voice came through the line, steady but urgent. "They just let you make this call. Only because they don't have a choice anymore. The video's everywhere, and the pressure is mounting." "Let me guess, big black guy attacks officers, they had to defend themselves." "Exactly, but it's not holding. Someone else was recording." A kid high schooler caught the whole thing from another angle, shows the first officer checking if his body cam was off before they started hitting you. "That's a game changer." "He's scared, won't give me his name. We need to protect him." "I need you to talk to him." Footsteps echoed down the hall. "Carter," he said, unlocking the cell door. "Am I finally getting my phone call? Your lawyers are demanding your release. The DA isn't budging yet." A voice from behind made Raymond turn. "They won't unless they're forced to. Darius King used to be on the force. I filed complaints, I pushed back, but the union always had his back. And now you're here, why?" Because I know exactly how this plays out. I want to help. I've been where you are. Susan Calder had never been the kind of investigator to take the easy way out. She sat at her desk. The pages were filled with reports, witness statements. Every single page pointed to a pattern. Assistant Chief Brandon Tate stepped inside. We need to talk. The protests aren't just about Raymond Carter anymore. This is bigger than just one unit. If we push too hard, we expose the entire department. Maybe it leaves us where we should have been all along, actually holding people accountable. You're not backing down, are you? No, she said simply, I'm not. Lisa sat across from Darius King and Nia Caldwell. They're pushing back harder. The DA is still dragging their feet. We don't give them time to breathe. We have stories, let's put them out there. We take their words directly to the people. Video interviews, live streams. I can start reaching out. Meanwhile, I'll ramp up legal pressure. I'll handle the street side. Let's make our move. Angela Brooks nodded. Yes, I almost didn't come. No, I need to my son, he was lucky. Angela hesitated before slowly lowering herself into the chair. My son was 17 when they arrested him. They threw him against the hood of a police car. They put him in the system. I tried to file a complaint, they shut me down. Hale and his team, they do this because they know no one will stop them. By the time Angela finished, Lisa's phone was buzzing nonstop. Nia Caldwell sat in a conference room. We have momentum. The DA is stalling because they think this will die down. We need to show them that it won't. We've already filed motions. They're investigating, but they're not moving fast enough. Then we make sure it doesn't. The protests are getting bigger. We keep the legal pressure up. People are coming forward faster than we expected. That's good, but it also means we need to move smart. Susan Calder pushed back from her desk. We just uncovered sealed complaints filed against Officer Hale that date back 10 years. How did we not know about this before? Because it was buried. Some of the old reports connect Hale to previous cases involving the same pattern. This isn't just about Raymond Carter, it's about a system that let Hale operate without consequences for years. Are we talking about cases where people serve time because of his actions? At least 5 that we can confirm. Hale's done. We're moving forward with termination and official charges. If we stop at Hale, we're just cutting off a limb. You keep digging, find out how deep this goes. The department internal email system buzzed with official notices. Officer Hale terminated. The department wasn't just taking action against Hale, his entire unit was under fire. Hale himself sat in a small, windowless conference room. This is a joke, he muttered. No, we're holding you accountable. Officer Hale, you are officially under arrest. Susan watched from her office window as Hale was let out. She turned back to her desk. Hale wasn't the last, there were more, and she was going to take down every last one of them. The city felt different now. Words spread fast. Officer Hale and his entire unit were gone. And the city celebrated. Outside the precinct, a crowd formed. You hear that? That's silence. No more of them out here doing whatever they want. I thought they were untouchable. They wanted us to think that, but now they had proof. Inside the police department, the officers who had once moved through the halls with certainty now walked in silence. They're not done, she said. This is just the beginning. The news spread faster than anyone could have expected. The district attorney had dropped all charges against Raymond Carter. Inside his holding cell, Raymond sat still, absorbing the magnitude of what had just happened. It's done, she said, her voice steady. They're dropping everything. They fought it up until the very last minute. Just like that, he asked. Not just like that. This only happened because people refused to let them bury you. He pushed himself to his feet. The moment the precinct doors opened, the crowd outside erupted into cheers. Dina was the first to reach him. I told you, she whispered against his shoulder. I told you you'd walk out of here. His mother was next, cupping his face. You're home now, she said. But he knew even in that moment that this wasn't just about him anymore. Investigations into past wrongful convictions had begun. The first name to be exonerated was Marcus Tillman, the man who had spent 3 years in prison because of a falsified police report written by Hale's team. And his wasn't the only case. The world outside had changed, but Raymond Carter wasn't naive enough to believe the fight was over. Justice wasn't just watching Hale and his team get locked up. Justice was making sure this never happened again. It started with a single case, Marcus Tillman. Then came Elijah Raines. The young man had spent a year behind bars. One by one, more names surfaced, more convictions were overturned. The city had been built on a lie. Raymond could have walked away, he could have taken his exoneration and disappeared into a quiet life. But after everything he had seen, after everything that had been revealed, how could he? He didn't ask to be a leader, he didn't ask to be the face of a movement. But the moment he stepped out of that cell, he knew he had a responsibility. So he stepped forward. With every interview, every press conference, every conversation with lawmakers and activists, Raymond refused to let the world forget what had happened. He spoke about accountability, about the names that still hadn't been cleared. He pushed for policy changes, meeting with civil rights groups, attending city hall meetings. With the pressure mounting, the city had no choice but to act. A new civilian oversight board was established. Mandatory body cameras were enforced. The police union, desperate to protect what little power it had left, fought back, but the public wasn't listening, not anymore. Raymond met with lawmakers, activists, community leaders, anyone who was willing to listen. Lisa Tanner continued exposing more cases, working alongside Darius King. More whistleblowers came forward, officers who had once feared retaliation, now emboldened. The change wasn't perfect, the fight wasn't over, but for the first time it wasn't impossible. As the months passed, Raymond found himself standing in front of a crowd. "This isn't just about one man," Raymond said, his voice steady. "It's about all of us." The crowd erupted in agreement. And as he looked at them, as he saw the fire in their eyes, the determination in their voices, he knew this was where he was meant to be. Because as long as injustice remained, he wasn't backing down, and neither was anyone else. The indictment came swiftly. Hale and his entire unit were officially facing federal charges. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with people who had been waiting years for this moment. The charges were read aloud: civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, excessive force, conspiracy. Hale sat at the defense table, his posture rigid, his jaw tight. The arrogance was gone. The prosecution wasted no time. They presented body camera footage, reports, sworn testimony from officers. There was no spinning this anymore. It wasn't just Hale, his entire unit was being brought down with him. For the people who had suffered under them, it was vindication. The fight had been long, exhausting, but now as the final verdicts were handed down, it was clear the fight had been won. The police department had been forced to change. The first step had been the creation of an independent civilian oversight board. New policies were rolled out. Body cameras were now mandatory. Training programs were overhauled. The police union fought back, but the public wasn't listening. The system wasn't being weakened, it was being rebuilt. Raymond saw the shift happening around him. He wasn't just a survivor, he was a leader now. He was invited to sit on panels discussing police reform. He met with lawmakers pushing for statewide changes. And then came the rally. Thousands of people filled the park. "This isn't just about one case," he began. "They told us we were imagining it. Well, I did follow the rules, and I still ended up in a cell. They wanted me to be silent, but I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere." The roar that followed wasn't just noise, it was power. The fight was over. For the first time, the people had won, and Raymond Carter was finally free. Raymond Carter walked through his neighborhood, the place that had shaped him. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't looking over his shoulder. The tension that had once settled over these streets like a fog had begun to lift little by little, day by day. As he walked past the corner store, a small group of young men leaning against the storefront. "Yo, Mr. Carter," the young man said, nodding respectfully. "It's good to see you out here." Raymond stopped, offering a small nod. "It's good to be out here." "You really did it, man. You took him down." Raymond shook his head. "We did it, all of us." One of the young men stepped forward. "I just want to say thank you." Raymond took it, shaking firmly. "Don't thank me, just make sure this never happens again." As Raymond continued down the block, he passed familiar faces. Raymond turned onto his own street, where his mother's house stood. Dana was already outside, leaning against the railing. "Feels different, doesn't it?" He looked out at the street. "Yeah," he said, exhaling slowly. "It does." His mother stepped onto the porch. "Come inside, baby, dinner's almost ready." Raymond smiled, feeling the warmth of home wrap around him. He climbed the steps, pausing for just a second to look back at the street, at the place that had once felt like a battlefield. Not anymore. This wasn't just his victory, it belonged to all of them.